Tried to keep my mind on good, positive things to stay in the right mindset to get through the treatment. And I believe that your mindset matters and makes a difference in your treatment plan. Hello, and welcome back to my YouTube channel, Your Purposeful Healthy Life. If we're just meeting, my name is Carla McCall, and I'm so happy to have you here. For everyone else, it's great to see you back. Today's video will be the next part of my breast cancer journey. It's actually about the radiation therapy. Last time we left off after my surgery and my appointment with the medical oncologist, where it was determined that I did not have to have chemotherapy, but I would still have to have radiation. December 1st of 2020 was my first appointment with Dr. Spencer, my radiation specialist, radiation oncologist. During that appointment, we talked about several different things. He asked me questions about my previous treatment plan, what I knew about my cancer, all those kinds of things. And I asked him any questions that I might have. I actually asked him about dietary restrictions, any specific foods that he thought would be helpful, because I'm very big on food as medicine too, and trying to make sure that I incorporate foods in my diet that help combat breast cancer and help with treatments. If you haven't seen any of those videos, I'll put a link right up here so you can see the Food as Medicine 2 series. And I'll also put a link up here for the last video from my cancer journey. Now, let me just give you a word of advice from me. And I discussed this with my doctor, and he agreed it was a good idea. When I went for that first appointment, I knew that it was going to be coming within about 2 weeks. So I went ahead and started. Every night, I would rub down the whole entire area that I knew was going to be affected with Aquaphor. It's an over-the-counter thing. I already had it. It was a recommended product. And I just figured if I could go ahead and get ahead of the game and treat that area and try to moisturize the skin and, make it more supple and just work on that it would reduce the bad side effects of maybe some of the radiation, and it would help my skin be prepared for what was going on. And that's what I did. So I would make that recommendation to anyone who's out there, if you're watching this before your radiation treatments, to go ahead and get that going. Don't wait until you start having symptoms or you've already started your treatments and maybe you have a little burn to start that, because by that point it's already gotten away from you. So just a tidbit, that's what I did. So let's talk about radiation therapy and what went on for me. We determined in that meeting that I would be a great candidate for the 15 accelerated treatments instead of the standard 30. What that means is the treatments are not any longer. It just means that they're a little bit stronger. And because my cancer was specifically in one area and had not spread, it was easier to treat those two particular areas. So we decided that's what we would do. And we set up an appointment to come in on the 7th for my setup. When I arrived on the 7th, pretty much you go into a room, into this machine, which looks similar to an MRI machine, and you have to go ahead and get in position. So with my cancer, being breast cancer, my treatments were with my arms raised above my head when I would lay down, and I would hold on to these handlebars. And that's how I had to be for treatment each time. So the first time I went in, they put this pillow under me, and it felt kind of like a beanbag. And my arms were up in position with the handlebars and everything. And the pillow became hard, and it created a hard plastic-like mold. Once the mold was hard, then they were able to move me around and get me in the position they needed me to be in. And they took lots of Xrays. They put markings on me all around the different sides. And then right in the center of those markings, they gave me permanent dot tattoos. So I have no tattoos on my body until then. Now I have 3 permanent dots. One in the middle section here and one on each side. And those dots were used each time to basically get you in position, and the lasers would come through and it would match up with the laser beams, and they would know that you were where you needed to be. there's a mark here in the specific area. And every time that lined up with the actual crosshairs on the machine to make sure that that was correct. We went through the markings that day, and that was pretty much it. They said, we'll call you when it's time for you to come back. It usually takes a few weeks to get your treatment plan done, and we'll go from there. Well, Dr. Spencer had told me that the dosimetrist and he and some other people would work on the treatment plan, and when it was ready, they'd let me know. They want it to go just far enough to get to where it needs to be, but not too far that it does anything else. And they have to program everything in and tell the machine exactly what to do. So it's a lot of stuff that's above my understanding. I received a call the last week of December, and we scheduled my trial run for December 29th. Now, the trial run is where you go in with the actual technicians and the machine that you're going to do your radiation with, and you do a dry run or a trial where everything happens just like normal, but you don't receive any radiation. I went in for that on the 29th at my scheduled time of 8:45. That was what my treatment, every single day, my treatments were going to be at 8:45. Got on the table, got my arms up, got in position. I basically had to have my arms up in the handlebars with my head turned because the rays would come right through here to keep my neck and face out of the way. And the machine did its thing, did all of its stuff, and we were done. So I got in the car and came home. On January the 4th was when I was going to start my actual treatments. I went back on the 4th to start my treatments. So it's about a 45-minute drive each day, one way. And I used that time to listen to podcasts or audiobooks, things that were positive and reinforcing, things that talked about, affirmations and just all kinds of good, positive feedback. I tried to keep my mind on good, positive things to stay in the right mindset to get through the treatment. And I believe that your mindset matters and makes a difference in your treatment plan. And that's how I chose to use that 45 minutes one way there and back. I would usually get there about 8:20 in the morning. And the way the protocol was you called from the parking lot to let them know you were there, and they would tell you to either come in or they would call you back when it was time. Most of the time they said, come on in. I would go in, say good morning to the guard, say good morning to Angela at the front desk. They would call me back. I had 3 wonderful technicians the whole time I was there, Sloan, Mallory, and Danette. They were great, and I enjoyed, my time with them, and we would talk about what was going on. I would go in, remove my shirt, get on the table in position. They would move me around however they needed me. Then they would go out and I would hear the machine start up. Well, each day it would take an X-ray to make sure internally my bones and everything else that I was lined up exactly where I was supposed to be. So the way I think about it was like a silhouette of my body, and they would take an X-ray and make sure that everything laid within the boundary of where it was supposed to be for the treatment plan. I actually found out that they even had markings, like when you put your arms up and your breast would hang over the side. There were even places that they would make sure that fell within the zone it was supposed to be in, to ensure that your treatments were always going exactly to the right place and the right depth and everything else. So it is very intense, very information, a lot of stuff going on. The machine would do the same thing every day. So after the first few days, you really got accustomed to exactly where you were and how much longer it was and what it was going to do next. So pretty much it would take X-rays, and I would know the machine would move over to this direction. And so it had these little teeth-like things in it. The only way I really can explain it was like teeth on a yard rake, or if you think about little kids, say Legos or something, and they had those little chiclet looking teeth, and it would move those teeth in and out. It would move some and not others and do all kinds of things. And that was letting the radiation come through. And it was the only thing that you could really see because you couldn't move your head, but you could see what it was doing. And I actually got to the point to where I knew exactly what it was going to do next. And it would make similar noises. And I'm guessing it was the type or maybe the strength of the rays that were coming through. And don't be alarmed, because the machine will tick and make noises, and then it would go, ba, ba, and it made kind of weird noises, and you kind of got accustomed to what it was. And it would move over, and it would come to the other side behind you where you couldn't see it, do the same sounds, the same things, and then it would be over. So then it's time to put your arms down, hop off the table, get dressed, and go. And I will tell you that my normal routine every day when I would come home is I would coat down in Aquaphor every day. So I started 2 weeks early, and so it was into that same regimen. I did not miss a day. It was consistent all the time. I would coat down and give that time to soak in. And we did the same thing pretty much the whole time. So week 1, week 2, week 3. So in week 3, which was the third week of January, about the end of that week, I started with just a couple of little spots, little dots or whatever. And I thought, oh, that itches a little bit. It's just a little skin irritation. I had one place under the tape that we stopped putting the tape there every day because I couldn't treat it with the Aquaphor, and it had one little blister. So we stopped putting the tape there. It didn't hurt. It was just there like a little sunburn blister, and I just treated it real good every day, and it eventually dried back in. It was a little discolored, and it's pretty much gone in now. But that was pretty much the extent of everything that went on. Now, week 4, which was the week that I had the boosts. Now, those are not any longer or any stronger. It's just that they're more specific. So instead of treating across the whole panel, it treated here and it treated here, basically the lymph nodes and where the tumor was. About halfway through that week, which would have been about the 27th of January, and I remember because that was my birthday, and that day it got really itchy and the rash kind of started coming up more, and right over here in the crease, the outside crease of my right breast, became a little more blistered, like burned, like a sunburn, and it was more sensitive. So as far as the rash goes, I used the mometasone that he had prescribed me. It's a steroid cream, and I would put the steroid cream on the rash, and I would try not to scratch it. So I wore a camisole or a tank top, and I would like pat it like this instead of scratching it. I would just pat, 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 pat like this, and just kind of try to make the itching go away instead of, because sometimes I wanted to claw it and scratch like crazy because it really itched. It never got real red, but it was all just right here on the chest area. And this spot over here was really sore, and my right nipple got really sensitive, really red, a couple of little spots on it. And so I would treat it real good, but I knew that those boosts were really getting in there. It really got itchy and sore the week after. So the first week of February, which was the week after, the 5th week from when I started and the week after I finished, was when the rash really got itchy and the burn really got sensitive. My nipple had a couple of places that were raw. I just kept treating it, kept doing. That right side got really, really red. It never blistered up, but it was red like a really bad sunburn, and it itched a lot, and so did the rash. So when they tell you that the radiation is still working after the treatments are over, it is the absolute truth, because it got more red, more irritated, more itchy, more sensitive that week after. And that lasted for about 2 weeks. Now, it's the day of this recording is February 28th. So I'm about a month out from there. And I will tell you that last week was the first week that I didn't really have any issues. It took about 2 weeks for the cracked skin on my nipple to kind of heal up. It's still discolored, but it's all healed. The rash is gone away. It doesn't itch anymore. Some of the red is still over here, but it doesn't hurt or anything. It doesn't bother me, but it did take a couple of weeks for that to go in. You just have to stay consistent. It got sore to where I didn't want anything to touch it. So I just wore really big shirts or a big camisole, or if I could get away with it and I was at home by myself, I wore no shirt at all. And just do what you can, do the best you can. But I will say, I really believe that starting the treatment, starting the Aquaphor or whatever you use on your skin early and just consistently do it every day will make a big difference. Please, 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 please don't wait until you start to have symptoms of burn or itch or whatever before you start something. I did not use the prescription medication steroid except for the rash and when I needed it, but I used the Aquaphor every day. I figured I would use the steroid if I had a situation to use it for, but the Aquaphor is over the counter and I used it every day. So that's definitely number one recommendation for you to do that. About week 3, I started to feel a little bit more tired. The 4th week wasn't really a big deal. I will tell you the 5th week after, which was the same time that the rash started to get really itchy and the burn started, I got really tired. There were about 3 or 4 days right in the middle of that week. So it would have been the 5th week after I started and the week after I finished. I was really tired. There were a couple of days that I just felt like I could hardly go. I needed to lay down and rest a minute. And I think it's just your body is working so hard to try to heal. You know, the radiation kills off all the cells that need to kill off, but it also kills off good cells. So your body's working really, really hard to rebuild all of those. And that is why it's so important, or it was for me, and I worked really hard on this to be sure that I was getting good nutrition. I stayed hydrated, lots of water, lots of fruits and things like that. I made sure to have good nutrition, lots of protein. I also started a collagen product, which was a type 1 marine collagen product that I knew would help with skin and healing the skin and everything. So I did as much as I could to stay ahead of the game and stay ready. And I believe that those things help my body a lot with healing. And, you know, like I said, it's been almost a month afterwards. I'm pretty much just normal. Everything's just whatever. And I don't have any side effects from it. I do still have some discoloration under my arm and it looks like I need to take a bath, but that's not it. It's just the discoloration and a little bit still red. I will have a disclaimer up at the end of this video and I will show you pictures throughout my treatment process, kind of how it started, when I had the rash, what this did, where this was, just for those of you who are going through treatment or maybe getting ready to start, just to give you a comparison of how my journey was to compare to yours. And I won't have pictures of the nipple in there because that's a little much for me. But just know that keep treating it. And so that's pretty much everything for my journey for now. I do go back in the month of March to see my surgeon, my medical oncologist, and my radiation oncologist to have rechecks on everything. And from there, pretty much, I guess we'll decide what the next thing is. I'm sure it won't be too much longer before I have another mammogram. So, you know, cross fingers, thoughts and prayers in that. It's always nerve-wracking every time you have a mammogram, but I know it's going to be something that I'm faced with for the rest of my life. It'll be extra nerve-wracking every time, praying that I'm doing the right things and the cancer stays away and out of my body. As far as medications and treatment plans, the only thing I have right now is I'll continue to take my anastrozole and my vitamin D and calcium supplement every day. That is my hormone blocker because my breast cancer was estrogen and progesterone positive. And so that's kind of where I am for right now. I hope that in some way this video helps you in your journey. If you're starting, you know, your treatment plan, feel free to reach out to me. I'm happy to help in any way I can. Anything that I've been through, I'm willing to share and answer questions that I can answer that I had on my journey. And I know that my journey was not as difficult as a lot of others, but it was still a journey. It was still a test. And I pray that the Lord has taken that test and turned it into a testimony that I can help others with. So that's really about it. And thank you so much for joining me. And I hope you have a blessed and wonderful day.